I drank over 30 different bottles of tequila and ranked them in a tier list from F all the way up to S class. We tasted some very common and cheap tequilas. We tasted some very expensive tequilas. Not to mention we tasted some more celebrity options and some of the most rare tequilas on this planet. I'll give you some tasting notes as well as a final grade for each and every single one of these. All right, enough talking. Let's get ready. All right, let's kick this off with a relatively new brand. We have La Casa. La Casa is a brand that actually launched just this year, and they come from NOM 1440, which is actually making some really good stuff. All right, well, let's start off by sipping their Blanco and then sipping the Repo. Good, clean, bright, good roasted agave flavor, bright, citrusy, a little floral in a way, but very clean, really coats the mouth beautifully. What about the Reposado? On the nose, a little ethanol, but nothing out of the ordinary. A little bit of roasted agave, a little sweetness. Ooh, that's nice. Doesn't really like punch you in the face with that ethanol, thankfully. It tastes like good roasted agave. Smooth to sip on, great mouthfeel, really coats the mouth beautifully. Really good stuff. A-, B+ range. I think B+ is a very fair assessment of La Casa. Next up is Chamucos. Let's give it a sip and then we can talk about it. Whoa, that's like a ton of agave flavor right up front. Good grassy element and really prominent on the agave flavor, which I really enjoy. Solid B. I like them. Solid B. Kirkland Signature Tequila. Now, I did a whole video on this that you can check out on my channel here, but we're just going to dive straight into the tasting and the grade. Oh, I hate that. I hate that. Artificial sweetness, like a cotton candy kind of flavor. Doesn't taste much like agave. It's cheap. It's 20 bucks, but it's definitely a D-. I don't like it, and I wanted to like it. All right, so now for a new, very exciting bottle is Cascajuin Blanco. Let's not say too much. Let's taste it and talk about it. Ooh, I love the nose on that. You get that herbalness, you get that earthiness, you get that agave flavor, aroma, I mean. Nice, bright, a little citrusy, a little floral, very earthy, gets that great agave flavor, and that lingering flavor is just so good. I think this might be our first entry into A+ territory. Wow. That's really good. That's really good. I am a fan. And while we're talking about the same distillery, we also have our next brand, Lágrimas del Valle. And this is also distilled at the Cascajuin distillery, which is the NOM 1123. This is the Lágrimas del Valle El Chiqueño. And so we're going to pour out here. Ooh, right on the nose. That is powerful. That is great roasted agave flavor, nice, bright. I smell a little bit of citrus. Whoa. Very bright, very citrusy, great agave flavor, coats the mouth beautifully. Some spice notes at the end there, but wow, that is also amazing. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna give this an A+. I'm a big fan of this. This is great. And now let's talk about Dos Primos Mezcal. Dos Primos is a tequila made by Thomas Rhett, the country singer. And I actually have an entire video where I talked about and ranked all of the celebrity-owned tequilas, but let's do it with this one in relation to the other brands in this video. Well, first off, like I said in the other video, I hate the name, Dos Primos. It's made by two cousins. You know what it feels like to me? They were like, you know what? We need a name for our tequila. What are we? Well, we're two cousins. Well, let's make it Hispanic, make it in Spanish, and boom, Dos Primos. All right, let's pour this out. Color doesn't look artificial, which is interesting. On the nose, it smells a little bit like cotton candy, a little bit like that fake vanilla, some ethanol, not much agave. Oh no. Yeah, that's, it's not great. It's just not very good. I'm gonna give this a D. I don't like it, man. I don't like it. And now to go from Dos Primos to another brand called Primo, which I'm not gonna criticize the name of, and you guys are all gonna be mad at me in the comments. But here's why. Primo is a brand that is created at the same exact distillery as G4 and Volans. And the reason it's called Primo is that the guy who created the brand is the cousin of one of the most legendary people in the tequila space, Felipe Camarena. Now you might say, well, you criticize one guy for calling it Dos Primos and you're fine with one guy calling it Primo. Yeah, I am. Sue me. So I have the Blanco here. You get some of those spice notes, that almost savoriness to it. I think that's so great. And how does the Reposado compare then? Well, let's pop it open. That's delightful. I love that. That's really good. So you still get a lot of that minerality, a lot of that spice elements, but then it's rounded out with some of that almost caramelly vanilla flavor from the barrel. This is a Reposado done well. I am gonna put Primo as an A+. I'm gonna give it an A+. It's bomb. It's really good. Also, J Bear, one hell of a barrel pick, buddy. This is delightful. And then now we have Cascanes Rosa Blanco. Now, I know we ranked Cascanes in the last video, but we didn't rank their special edition. This is a Blanco tequila. I know it doesn't look it, but we'll explain that in a moment. That was aged in Cabernet barrels for less than a month. I think it was like 24 days. And while Blanco does mean white, which is usually attributed to unaged tequila, the classification of the word Blanco tequila means that a tequila can be aged for up to 2 months, I believe, and still be called a Blanco. This one was aged in former Cabernet wine casks, and ooh, I love the smell of it. Let's pour it out and talk about it a little bit. Oh, I love that. That wine actually gives us a really inherent fruitiness that combines beautifully with that citrusiness for a transformative experience of what drinking the regular Cascanes Blanco is. Cascanes still remains in the S class for me, especially this one. And I don't know if I put them in the S class in the last video, but let's pretend I did in this one's S class. And there we go. Love it. And next, Clase Azul. Look, I've talked about this brand way too much. I've given it way too much time. I'm gonna taste this, give it a ranking, and move on. If you wanna see the entire video I did on this, it's right over here. Watch it. I don't wanna get into it here. This bottle is so unnecessary. It's so ridiculous. All right. Absolutely hate that. It just tastes like vanilla syrup. It doesn't taste like a tequila. There's no agave in it at all. Just tastes fake vanilla F. All right, and next up we have a brand called El Ateo. El Ateo is a relatively new brand to the market, and they sent me this tequila, but as much as I think their branding is nice, their cork broke on me. It was a nice heavy metal cork, but it's like the little things. Like I had it for one day and it broke off. And I have just the bottom part of the cork, and like, that's unfortunate. I wish that didn't happen. But all right, what about what's inside the bottle? Nice aroma on the nose, citrusy, little floral. It's got a good mouthfeel. It tastes very natural. It's very good. I'm a fan of that. B. That's a good solid B. Let's move on to talking about some highly requested brands that people always ask me about. We have number one, Espolón. So why do people like Espolón? I think that one of the reasons why it's very popular is because of its price. It's a good entry option because it's owned by Campari. It's available in tons of different places. Let's pour some out and see what we think. It's not terrible, but I don't get all that much like agave flavor. It's very light. It's very faint. Is it terrible per se? No. Will it make a decent margarita? Probably. Truth be told, this is like a C minus. I'll put it firmly in the C minus category. Next up is another huge budget brand that everyone asks me about is El Jimador. When I first opened my bar and restaurant, El Jimador was the brand that I used. Let's pop it open and see what it's all about. Tastes like it's trying to convince you that it was aged, but it doesn't have like a characteristic barrel aging notes. It just tastes like those fake vanilla, cotton candy, slightly fruit punchy kind of flavors. And yeah, no, this is a no for me. This is a D. Are there worse brands out there? Yeah, 100%. But it's not very good. All right, next up, let's talk about Tromba. First up is the Blanco. It's good. That's very good. That is crisp, it's clean, it's got the citrusy flavor, the agave is there, it's nice and a little floral, and there's some spice right at the end that makes it quite enjoyable actually. Let's taste this one and see what's up with that. Man, that's tasty. That's very tasty. It pulls heavy from the barrel side. It gets more of that almost bourbon kind of flavor. While I don't taste additives in this tequila at all, they are not confirmed additive free, and maybe that seems like a silly thing, but if you've only been following for a little bit, I've been making it quite a big mission of mine to always support confirmed additive-free brands. I would rank Tromba as like a B minus. They don't taste like they're using additives. I think that what they're doing is pretty good. I like their product. It's pretty decent. Let's pull out the big guns. We have Don Fulano. So Don Fulano was created by the Fonseca family, who have had over 140 years of agave growing experience. They were originally agave farmers. And then in the 70s, they created their own distillery, and they've been really trying to make an incredible product. This is the Reposado, which I incorrectly called Añejo in a video on my Instagram. Oh, on the nose, that is incredible. That's delightful. That is so good. Obviously, you get that roasted agave flavor. The pepper really gets you. Great amounts of oak and vanilla. It's a little fruity and a little cinnamony as well. It's a very enjoyable sipper, and it's one of my favorite brands for a reason. I really love what they're doing. This is an S tier. S tier without a doubt. Got it. Next up is Suerte. And so what makes Suerte special? I will say it is not confirmed additive free by Tequila Matchmaker. That doesn't necessarily mean that they automatically use additives. Right on the nose, I get a lot of roast agave and some citrus. And on the palate, great roast agave flavor. There's a really nice vanilla flavor, but it doesn't taste artificial. It feels like it's just coming from the barrel. I would put Suerte, especially for the price, I'd put it at like a B+. B+ territory for sure. And next up, let's talk about Arte Nom 1123. I think that Arte Nom is a fascinating brand and a fascinating company. Basically, they have a lot of different expressions, and each of these expressions are made at distilleries of distinction. So for example, 1123 here, this one is made at the same distillery as Cascajuin and Lágrimas del Valle that I showed earlier. But all right, what's in the bottle? You get this nice minerality. What's really cool is that there's almost like this smokiness or a pepperiness to it that really comes through in a beautiful way. I'm gonna give this an A+. I love this one. This is really, really good. And continuing on from one of the brands I just mentioned, we have Siempre. Siempre is made at Nom 1414, which is another one I was just talking about with Arte Nom, and this is their regular plata. So with this one right on the nose, I get a lot of agave and actually a lot of raw alcohol aroma, which I don't always love. It's a little earthy, it's a little grassy, a little citrusy. It doesn't overwhelm you with flavor. I think it's a good, easy sipper. They have a special edition Vivo, which is their still strength that comes from 1414. And my God, in terms of still strengths, this is one of my favorite that I've ever tried. It's really, really tasty. Oh. So right on the nose, what I get is roasted agave and flowers. I get like a little bit of savoriness, some floralness to it. Oh, so enjoyable. You get a little bit of smoke and a little bit of black pepper, which I love. I think it matches so well with the minerality, and it is such a great sipper. So let's give the brand, it's hard to say because each expression is a little bit different, but B, yes, that's good job, guys. This is my baby. All right, next up, let's talk about a more obscure brand. This is Herencia Mexicana. We had this for a tasting at my bar and restaurant, and I actually thought it was quite good. But all right, what does it taste like? What does it smell like? What's my rating? On the nose, I get like a buttery aroma, a little bit of agave, some butter. And in terms of flavor, it's kind of on par with the aroma. It's a good butteriness to it. It's got a nice mouthfeel. I think it's good. It's decent. It's a good añejo option. I would put it at like a B territory. Good. All right, next up is Flecha Azul. If you don't know, this is Mark Wahlberg's brand of tequila, and he loves to go on Instagram and talk about how it's the #1 voted sipping tequila in the world. I talked about it more in depth on the video tasting all of the celebrity tequilas, but for this one, let's just keep it simple. We'll do the aroma, the taste, the grade, and then we're outie. It just smells like cotton candy right on the nose. Immediately, that was what I got. Oh God, that's a D. Straight up D. As in don't buy. D for don't buy. Speaking of celebrity tequilas you should not buy, we have Villa One. Now, this is owned by one of the Jonas Brothers, and what I find hilarious is that they have Villa, which is a Spanish word, and then you have One, an English word, and it's like they couldn't decide which one they wanted to go with. This is the añejo. It looks super duper artificial in color. This is an añejo. It looks like a 10-year-old bourbon, which it's not supposed to look like. F, as in fuck that. Yeah, don't buy that. And next up, let's talk about Siembra Azul. I think their branding is dope. It looks really nice. I really enjoy it. I think it's classy. If you don't know, I used to be a graphic designer, and I think that this kind of stuff it makes me very excited. That's got this really incredible minerality and earthiness to it that is outstanding. Great roasted agave flavor, nice peppery elements, super delightful. One that if you haven't tried, I highly recommend. I would give this one a A-. This is definitely an A-. I thoroughly enjoy this. Next up is mi tierra. I got gifted this by someone, so I hope I don't offend them based on what happens when I taste it. Let's pour some out, talk about the aromas, talk about the flavors, give it a grade. Oh, that is surprising. It's got a good roasted agave flavor. The floweriness is present, earthiness is there, a little citrusy. Black pepper is very prominent. Pretty good. I'm gonna give this a B. Wow, surprising. I expected to hate this when I grabbed it. Next up is Volan's Still Strength. And this, in my opinion, is one of the best things that they've ever made. Oh, I am so obsessed with that. I love that. The roasted agave flavor, the citrus element. This is an easy S tier for me. Their Still Strength is one of the best I've ever tried. And speaking of brands from the incredible distillery of El Pandillo, we have another one, Peralta. I don't know too much about the backstory about this brand, but it's made in great company. Right on the palate, it is more aligned with the barrel notes. So it has more of that vanilla, more of that oak. Some minerality, not too much, and some good pepper notes. I would rank it overall, maybe a B. I just think that it's a little muddied in terms of flavor. It's like it doesn't really know which way it wants to go. And so next up, let's talk about two more budget-friendly options. Well, number one is El Padrino de mi Tierra. It is not confirmed additive-free, which is important to note. Let's pour some out and talk about it. On the nose, I get a lot of that just raw alcohol ethanol aroma and a little bit of that like sweetness from like maybe a barrel, maybe additives. It's just very faint. And on the palate, it's just overwhelmingly fake sweetness. It's just a really not great alcohol flavor. Let's finalize it as a D+ product. Yeah. And next up is Luna Azul. Before we even get into this, I used to use Luna Azul as my wild tequila back when I didn't know much about tequila. I thought it was a good option because it was what we used to use at the last restaurant and bar that I worked at before I opened my own. Well, let's pour some out and talk about it. On the nose, I'm getting a lot of that alcohol ethanol aroma. You get that oak, some whiskey elements, and some vanilla on the aroma. Now, what about on the palate? It's lacking agave flavor. It doesn't taste like agave. It doesn't taste like tequila to me. It just tastes like the barrel. I'm gonna have to give this a C-. It's not the worst thing in the world, but definitely not the best. All right, next up we have La Gritona. La Gritona is now confirmed additive-free by Tequila Matchmaker. Even though it may not look like it, this is a reposado tequila. Okay. On the aroma, it's just full-on agave and black pepper. A little bit of vanilla actually, and some like vegetalness really comes through just on the nose itself. It is so good. Some people love it, some people hate it because it has a very robust, in-your-face, spicy agave tequila flavor, which I love. Incredible price, incredible product. It is made by a female master distiller. It's an incredible product. I think that they are firmly in the B+, A- territory. La Gritona. And you know what? While we're at it, let's keep the trend of tiny little bottles going. This is Quintaliza tequila. They're the first tequila aged in former coffee barrels. And so I'm assuming that just means that they took barrels that used to house coffee and then they aged tequila in it. A part of me keeps thinking, I haven't opened this yet, it's completely unopened. Part of me thinks maybe it's a gimmick. It just seems like, okay, what else can we invent? But let's see. Is it a gimmick? Let's give it a shot. Oh wow. So that coffee is very present even on the nose. I get some spice, some agave, but that coffee is front and center. Whoa, that's different in a very good way. It tastes like coffee, but it also tastes like tequila. And I think that is fascinating. That's very different. Do I like that? I think I do. I think I really do enjoy that. That's really cool. I like that. Is it a gimmick? I don't know. It feels a little gimmicky, but it's good. I'm actually gonna give that an A-. That's an A-. That's pretty cool. Good job, guys. This is very interesting. And now let's talk about Santo Fino Tequila. Santo Fino is a brand of tequila that is owned by Sammy Hagar and Guy Fieri. I don't want to go too deep into this one because I do cover it a lot in the tasting through all the celebrity tequila brands. And I'm just going to taste it and then we can talk about it. First, we're going to taste the Blanco and then we're going to taste the Repo and we go from there. Well, actually, we might not even taste the Repo because we did that in the other video. Let's taste the Añejo and the Blanco in this video. First, the Blanco. I get a lot of like a clean aroma, agave, citrus, vegetalness, a little earthiness. Very tasty, very clean. That would probably be great in a margarita. Nice and easy to sip on its own. Not the most overwhelming amount of flavor in a Blanco, but definitely not lacking that much flavor. It's present, the agave is present, it's citrusy. It's good, easy sipper. I would give the Blanco probably a B+, a B. Maybe I'd give the Blanco a B. And what about the Añejo? Nice color to it. Ooh, I like that nose. That's very good. Wow. That has a lot of spice to it. I get like a little bit of like black pepper, and it's almost leaning towards like the cinnamony side, but I know it's not cinnamon. Roasted agave, clean and spice. Very enjoyable, a B+. Very, very tasty. We're gonna be reviewing two very special editions of Fortaleza. I have the Winter Blend 2022 and the Winter Blend 2023. All right, let's pour some out. Right on the nose, I get the smell of heaven opening up and taking me into its arms and telling me I've been a good boy. I mean, it smells like roasted agave, some oak caramel, a little bit of vanilla, but in the best way possible. That's great. That's awesome. That's so good. Fuck. It brings back great memories. It tastes amazing. If I could give it better than an S, I would. And for the newest addition to my library, we have the Winter Blend 2023. I shouldn't tell people this, but I did get to try this earlier this year. I didn't get to go on their press trip because I was getting married, but someone there was very kind to share a little bit of this with me. I'm not gonna say any more than that. This just, it blows my mind at how good this is, truthfully. I can't get over it. I really can't. It's got this great caramelly flavor, the 2023. It's awesome vanilla. And what's really fun is that it was aged in ex-charanda barrels, which is Mexican rum. So it's got this inherent funkiness and a little bit of a more savory element to it. If you ever had like charanda, you'll understand kind of what I'm talking about in comparison to the 2022. Both are excellent, but I'm actually leaning a little bit more towards the 2023 edition. These are like some of the best tequilas ever produced ever, I think. S class, without a doubt, man. It's just stupidly good. There you have it. Hopefully this video gave you a lot of insight into all of these different brands. But if this video somehow wasn't enough for you, I actually have an entire other video where I tasted 30 other brands of tequila, which you can check out next.